Support comes from Mosby Building Arts, helping families love their homes again. Inspiration at callmosby.com.
This is St. Louis on the Air from St. Louis Public Radio. I'm Elaine Cha. Today we're spending our hour getting perspective on recovery since an EF3 tornado tore through parts of St. Louis and hit neighborhoods in North St. Louis especially hard. Yesterday was the 6-month anniversary of that historic storm. Families are still working to rebuild their lives, and many are struggling to do so without the assistance they feel is deserved. Many also feel abandoned by the city, the state of Missouri, and the federal government. Earlier this month, St. Louis Public Radio held a listening session at the O'Fallon Park Rec Complex, a place that has served as the heart for volunteer efforts and resource distribution after the storm. We heard from residents like Reggae Singleton, who feel like the tornado has left them with one question.
What degradation in your home are you willing to just live with, because you either don't have the resources to fix it or it's just not easy to do in this moment?
Here to talk about the listening session is engagement producer Paola Rodriguez. Paola, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Paola, can you walk us through what a listening session is meant to do?
Yeah, it's meant to help connect reporters with community members. We want to ensure that people understand we're not just there to get a quote and leave. We're your neighbors and we care. We want to listen intently to ensure that, if you feel brushed off by officials, bureaucracies, and processes, that the last thing you feel is brushed off by us.
Mm-hmm. What did you hear at the listening session a couple of Saturdays ago?
Almost everyone that we talked to either had their home destroyed by a tornado or knew of someone that was impacted by the tornado, and every age was impacted. We're talking from kids to elders, and they were all eager to share their story because, frankly, they feel ignored by recovery efforts. We also heard anecdotes from people who were frustrated that St. Louis Rams settlement money isn't being distributed at the rates that they necessarily would want it to be sent out, or they just feel like they're in the dark with city response and not knowing where the city's at. And unless it was community-led, residents felt and still feel like they're on their own. Like Rosalind Jackson, she's 71 years old and lives in the O'Fallon Park neighborhood. She had some damage to her home and admittedly says it wasn't as bad as her neighbors, but she had no luck when it came to reaching out to city services.
When we ask for city services and actually call, we should get responses. Even although I don't want to hear it, we can't come right now or we're overloaded, but we should get responses. I called the city department and I am still waiting today to get a response, and this was like May the 20th.
Luckily for her, she was able to get assistance from local groups, but without that, I don't know if she would have had the same sort of response.
Mm-hmm. Were people very willing to talk?
Oh, yeah. We would offer them the opportunity to go on the record, so have a recorded conversation, or go off the record. We talked to about, in total, 15 people, and those were people that had the time to sit down with us. Some people just were walking by and said, oh, I was impacted, but I don't have a lot of time to sit down and chat. But what you're doing is something that is impacting everyone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I was there. I felt much of the same, that it didn't take too much, that the invitation was enough, and then it kind of really opened things up. Were there conversations that really stood out?
Yeah, overall, there was one phrase that kept being repeated in almost all of my conversations, which is, what is being done? Residents still see debris, and some are just now getting their roofs repaired 6 months later. One person I talked to who worked at the YMCA was sharing that he's now just able to move back into his home because his insurance is just now getting to repairing his roof. Earlier, we heard from Reggae Singleton, St. Louis on the Air producer Maya Norfleet, and STLPR reporter Andrea Henderson asked if there was a question that she wanted answered regarding the recovery. She was honest, saying she doesn't have one because she thinks officials don't want to see her community stay.
I'm not confident that I believe that any of the plan involves us staying where we are. There's the part of me that is just like, they wanted to clear the land out anyway, and this was just an opportunity to clear it out. So wherever we go is where we go. The gentrification was happening in these neighborhoods long before the tornado. And this wasn't necessarily a thing that was intended to move us out, but it certainly makes it easier. What I appreciate about my block is that I know the people and that we've been neighbors for a very long time. But if the tenor of the block changes to where the community sense isn't there, it's just a house. And, we've anchored in our neighborhood through a lot of black crime, a lot of, black violence, black on black violence. But I don't know if I want to be anchoring our neighborhood with white microaggression, white macroaggression. In all honesty, I don't. I want to be able to be at home.
We heard those fears of gentrification coming out immediately after the tornado. And on a personal note, I can understand where Reggie's coming from. Her fears are rooted in historical truths. Gentrification can happen after a natural disaster. I've seen it with my own friends and family after Hurricane Maria swept through Puerto Rico in 2017. Developers came in buying homes and property, and eventually natives were being priced out.
Mm-hmm. That disaster capitalism at work.
Yeah, you see it in a lot of areas that people want to try to profit off of.
Mm-hmm. Something else that stood out, Gloria Nolan was here earlier with her daughter, Dylan, and Gloria noted she hadn't realized how much a roof does. And what struck me at that session was that even after this tornado, what a roof represents is also very much part of this conversation regarding shelter, for example.
Yeah, I remember us talking about it. And whenever we talk about our basic human needs, right? It's food, water, and shelter. A roof is a means to a shelter. And that also means making a home. And it's also a way of bringing community members together. You lose that roof, you lose your home, and you lose an avenue to building and fostering community. Luckily, after the tornado, residents really gathered to support one another. You saw that at the YMCA Rec Center. And because of that place had a roof, that was why we chose to go there. It was the heart of where community efforts are being held. And it's clearly shown through the different types of relationships that, Gloria and her daughter were able to make through these recovery efforts.
Mm-hmm. If people want to get in touch with you specifically about some of the things they're continuing to experience, how is it that they can reach you?
People can DM us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky. We also have a form on our website where it says, tell us about your experience 6 months after the tornado. And we're checking it periodically. And whatever you send in will help inform our coverage moving forward.
Mm-hmm. And that coverage will continue.
Always.
Really underscore that. Paola Rodriguez is STLPR's engagement producer. Paola, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
This episode was produced by Paola Rodriguez.
Production assistance from Darius Varner.
Audio engineering and sound design by Aaron Dorr.
Our executive producer is Alex Hoyer.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations. And leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thanks.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis.
The Gateway brings you the day's news each weekday from around the St. Louis region and the state capitals in Jefferson City.
Our schools are accredited. We don't need this bill.
And Springfield.
How many more years must pass before lawmakers see time is of the essence?
I'm Abby Larico. Join me each weekday for The Gateway on the STLPR app or wherever you get podcasts.